Do you see now the difference in our power?
One of my
Yeah.
final questions is, and this is just something that I like to ask everyone, and I
Mhm.
understand DLC characters isn't what people are interested in right now, but for you, is there any characters or is there any game modes? Is there anything that's missing in Tekken 8 that you want to be added?
There's one thing that I've talked about a lot, and it's team battle. I'm thinking about that if I'm being serious, like from a selfish standpoint, because we used to have like a league. I don't know if you're familiar with Tekken House. I don't know if you've ever heard of that before, but it's basically like my company, that TKN House thing. If you ever see it, I do like a university where I teach people how to play. Like if you're good, I can make you a great player. That's what I did with Genghis Don. I don't know if y'all know who Genghis Don is. He used to be in my classes. I taught him and a few other people that you probably heard of or seen if you watch any of these tournaments. But I do a lot of different stuff. Like I like to teach. That's really my thing, is I really like to teach people things. I was saying I like team battle because we had a league. It was like a team league. I think that that would be something you could use to make it like an online team mode, so you don't have to necessarily travel to these places, and you can have things like New York versus Atlanta versus the West Coast versus the East Coast, and it would kind of be built into the game. You could have something set up in the lounge where it's like there's the team battle section, and y'all could play online with your 8 people on your friends group. I think that that's something that I've always wanted in there, like selfishly. And as far as like a guest character, I know most people do not agree with me on this, but I kind of like the idea of Tekken versus Street Fighter, the Tekken version. Like I thought that shit with Akuma and Geese, while it was cheap as hell, like I thought that junk was done very well. Like it felt like I was fighting Akuma from Street Fighter. So in my mind, maybe it's not even a character per se, but it is more or less, I would like to see that concept come to fruition. A Tekken versus Street Fighter where they finally get it right. But I always told people, like, you can't base it off Akuma. Akuma cheap in his own damn game. What
Yeah.
you thought he's gonna come over here and not be cheap?
That is
Geese is
true.
cheap in his own game. You
Yeah.
think he's not gonna come over here and be cheap as hell? I don't think you would have the same problem with Ryu. He don't get the uppercut you and do a combo. I also had like an idea, a way to like teach things in the game, but not make them appear to be what they are. The idea of like people learning how to wave dash. You could just have a section in Tekken Fight Lounge where it's like Funland or something, like Heihachi's Funland from Tekken 3. There could be games like, oh, a racing game where you have to do wave dash inputs to get across the screen. It could be like it could just be some bullshit picture of like Kazuya and Lena Jin and they racing across the screen, and it teaches people how to do wave dashing. But it just feels like they're putting inputs in to learn how to play the game. They do something similar in Street Fighter where they have you do little things in their world tour mode that it actually is commands for how to play the game. But when you're doing the command, it might be like a mini game. I think that would be something they could add in the game that would be pretty useful, like for folks wanting to learn Mishimas and want to learn how to do wave dashes, or do something where people can learn how to effectively do it electric, inputting the command on time, and it's like a Tetris game. I don't know, whatever they could come up with. So it would correlate to how the game mechanics work, but it won't be so on the nose that you feel like you're going in here and doing practice mode. You go in here, it's like, oh yeah, man, I'm about to race you across the screen doing a wave dash. Let's see who can get across the screen. Next thing you know, everybody know how to light dash.
I think they kind of tried to do that with Arcade Quest, but the reason why I think that fails is because one, it's not online. The no online there is crazy. But then two, I feel like they're not really like how you're saying. You're saying like teach people like the real Tekken. That's the problem with like the practice modes and stuff is that like or the ghost, you can fight against a ghost or do some practice stuff, and then you go into a real match and get smoked. They need to gear these practice and these testing and whatever you want to call it. Yeah, make it fun, make it like a type of mini game. But then make it something that's like really useful and online. Like, you know how you were saying like a wave dash race. That's really good. And then I also would throw in the idea of like you can have like, 4 characters on the screen and then you can have like projectiles, like let's say someone's throwing like garbage from the left and right side of the screen. Whoever blocks more garbage like wins, like they have the highest health bar wins. And it's like you're teaching people how to block high, mid, evade stuff, sidestep. Like I do think Tekken should go that route because I always faulted Tekken for not teaching people how to get out of some of these things. I'm happy that Tekken 8 does have a lot of this training, but they need to do more of it and commit to it and make it funner. But then also I do like your idea of like the team elements that you were talking about, team tournaments, team battle. Tekken is a one-on-one game, and at times you can feel like you're just losing, and you get discouraged. And I think if you were able to, deal with some of these struggles in a team or together, it would make it more of an experience instead of just like, labbing and homework or whatever. You could do something, you could pick up trash with your friend and it would be a great experience.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, and I have proof of that concept being the case. Like we had that because it was like real life teams. We're out of Atlanta, so I got people like well, I call him Ricky, but Poke Chop, K Dash, Shola, like all these different players. There was like a draft system. Y'all can go and look. It's on one of them videos. It's a little far back, maybe about 2 years ago. But we had like a draft day, and the teams had their own jerseys, and you could buy a jersey if you wanted to support the team. It was a lot of concept baked into it, but I wasn't that big of a creator, so it didn't get off the ground as high as I wanted it to. But with that being the case, I saw what the team camaraderie did. Each player was like worth a certain amount of points, so you couldn't even have a stacked ass team. You had to have sorry low level players on your team. You had to have a captain.
I like that concept of like you have, let's say, 30 points, and then if you want to put a
hmm
God of Destruction, 15 points.
That's kind of how it was. Yeah, that was exactly how it was. Like if you want to have certain players on your team, they had to have certain point restrictions. And you could do something on here where you make like factions or something and have it where it would work like factions. This would make people more interested in being a part of the game. I see people in the fight lounge and they make their own little fake factions, but it's just a name. It don't really do nothing. It
Yeah.
don't really mean nothing. It's just, I mean, I guess faction is always just a name, but you could make it mean more than that.
Yeah.
This would draw more people to your game. It'll invite more like togetherness. It'll also create like rivalries where, we can have us a gang war, but it's in Tekken.
Mhm.
You're like, oh yeah, we got the Gen sides and the damn Cass sides. We gonna go against each other in this team battle mode. Right now, we've been whooping y'all ass. We done kept score. Hey, you can make a whole online little league out of it, the same way they do in Marvel Rivals. You could take a lot of these concepts and put it into Tekken. Like, just make it applicable to the game that you have, and you could draw in a lot of these people. I'm a person who looks at the concept of this game and I say, hey man, it's one thing to play the game, but it's a whole nother thing to get immersed in the game. And they are trying to get you immersed. They just fucked up you wanting to play it. Well, some people wanting to play this shit. I think fighting games probably the only thing I would think would hold them back is maybe development cost for all this stuff is a lot higher than we might think it is. Or, it's just because the core game is 1v1, I guess they just haven't thought to themselves, how can we make 1v1 be multi-team, like be multiplayer, outside of just doing like Tekken Tag where we can both be playing on the same team, but it's kind of convoluted. I think it's simple to us because we're the consumer, you know what I'm saying? But I think that a lot of times it's probably simpler than they believe. They just don't have a proof of concept. And it's not a game that reins in so many people that they can afford to make missteps, which is why the season two stuff is, on one hand, I hear people complain about it, and I think they rightfully should be doing so. But on the other hand, it's like y'all gotta also remember you don't want to sour people too much because this is only a fighting game. Like this ain't Call of Duty. It don't got millions of players playing this junk. Like Tekken, nobody don't play this junk and don't buy this junk. Don't sell 4 million copies or 5 million copies or 7 million copies, you might not get no damn Tekken 8. You might not get Tekken 9. I don't know if I ever actively discourage people myself to not play the game, but I'm a teacher at heart. So I kind of encourage people to figure out the problems, how to get around the problem. But I understand everybody don't got time for that. Everybody don't want to do that. And sometimes, like I said, you'll go in that practice room and figure out, oh, this is just really some bullshit. Like they designed some actual bullshit. This is actually I gotta get. And when you get to those points, I think is when you get to that kind of point where you can say, listen, I played your game. I know how your game works. And this is probably why they'll listen to somebody like me or Arslanesh. It's not just simply because they're the known names. It's because I know this person plays my game to the fullest extent. So if they're saying it's some bullshit, they're probably not going to come out here and just say Lydia's some bullshit because she got 50-50. If they come out here and say Lydia's some bullshit because of these 50-50s, it's because it's nothing else that can be done. And they practiced everything they could do. And now they're bringing this to you and being like, hey, bro, this junk is, this ain't going to work, bro. Y'all going to have to get this up out of here. And meanwhile, to everybody else, who's not in the know of why they would even listen to these folks, it just looked like some elitist shit. And it's like, no, they actually are like the prime game testers, if anybody's gonna be a game tester.